Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us if you are here live or if you will be watching this recording at a later time. My name is Olga. I am a case manager for the Family Caregiver Support Program at St. Barnabas. Welcome to our weekly education, bi-weekly, I should say. Today I'll be discussing finances, taking over your parents' finances and 10 things you should know. This would apply to, I guess, anybody that's a caregiver, not necessarily taking over your parents. I know we have clients that are caring for their grandparents, spouses, caring for their husbands or wives, who sometimes could be the primary provider at the home. So, just questions that you should know if you're a caregiver overall. I want to introduce the Family Caregiver team. Again, my name is Olga Milwaukee. I am one of the case managers. We also have Michelle Mawire and Valerie Moreno, additional case managers of the program. So a little overview of what I will be discussing will be financial questions that every caregiver should be asking. Power of attorney, financial records, health insurance, and income and expenses. And this all has to do with the care receiver if you're a caregiver. So, what would you do if, let's say, one of your parents, became ill and you suddenly have to manage over their finances? If your mom or dad were to fall become incapacitated, or someone, someone still has to continue to pay their bills and take care of their finances, whether that's the mortgage, the electricity, anything that has to do with finances, those still have to be completed by somebody. So if this scenario, were to happen, are you prepared for it? Many families are not prepared to deal with the legal and financial consequences of their loved one's illness. Experts encourage people, especially those recently diagnosed with a serious illness, particularly one that is expected to cause declining mental or physical health in the individual, to examine and update their financial and healthcare arrangements. So the first question that you would want to ask is, do they have a power of attorney in place? If they do, have they named a durable power of, who have they named as their power of attorney agent? There's two different types of power of attorney. One is for finances, and the other one's for medical care. So, try to have both in place if they don't have any set up already. If your parent loses competency without a power of attorney in place, you as the primary caregiver will have to go to court and seek guardianship in order to have access to those, their finances or their medical care. And also a power of attorney document authorizes a specified individual, which is called the agent, to legally act on behalf of the other person. That will be your care receiver, which is called the principal. Without this legal preparations, caregivers would have no way of effectively advocating for their care recipients should they become incompetent. And then you won't have access to any of their accounts on their behalf. However, some third-party agencies don't really accept power of attorneys. So it's just always good to, have everything in place and find out what is needed, just in case when those emergencies happened. So some third parties are hesitant to accept power of attorneys. Those are financial institutions, such as banks. They typically need time to confirm that the power of attorney is indeed valid and you are the individual assigned, the agent assigned to the power of attorney for the finances. Usually, this takes time. So sometimes what the bank will do is they'll have you sign an affidavit releasing any liability. And this is why some banks are really hesitant towards power of attorneys, because if something does happen, the institution will be liable for any wrongdoing if the document is not legitimate or you're not actually the individual in the power of attorney. So by signing the affidavit, you release all liability for the bank in case something is not right. Also, the Social Security Administration does not accept power of attorneys. They don't recognize it as a legitimate document for their purposes. For them, you would have to apply to be an authorized representative by completing this form, SSA 1696. And that could take some time. They also do a vetting. They have a vetting process. So they'll vet the individual who's applying to be the representative before they accept that individual as the appointee for the care receiver. So they're very strict on their methods of operating, which in a way it's good. They won't release your information just to anybody. Also, the VA doesn't recognize power of attorney for finances. That is not a sufficient authorization to manage a veteran's benefits. The VA will call for the appointment of a fiduciary. And also with the VA, you need to also fill out a form for the individual granting you access or power to be able to manage their benefits. For Medicare also, they specifically cannot provide personal health information to a caregiver unless the beneficiary has submitted a written authorization to Centers for Medicare and Medi-Cal Services, or provided verbal permission. For that, the individual would have to call in and they go through a series of questions. And then once they get verbal consent, the caregiver will have access to their records. But it's always, preferable and safer to speak to someone live. Call them up, if you have any questions. They should be able to answer any of the questions if you do have a power of attorney in place, or if they do, just to confirm that if they do validate power of attorneys. And also if you're using the right forms, if they have specific forms that you need to fill out. And also if you're using the right terminology, because, wording is everything with this documents, because the power of attorney is a legal document, but you do want to make sure you use the specific terminology for what the individual is assigning you as the agent to take care of, whether it's financial responsibilities or their medical care. And then here's a little graph that just tells you a little more of a overview of a medical, legal, and financial planning documents. These are some medical documents like the live-in will and how it's used. It describes and instructs how the person wants end-of-life health care managed. Dual power of attorney for health. It gives a designated person authority to make healthcare decisions on behalf of persons. That's whether I got this from an Alzheimer's website, so that's why it refers to Alzheimer's. but it could be any illness, whether it's Alzheimer's or any illness that your loved one may be suffering. And then a do not resuscitate order, instructs healthcare professionals not to perform CPR in case of a stopped heart or stopped breathing situation if it happens. Some legal financial documents, a will, it indicates how a person's assets and estate will be distributed among the beneficiaries after his or her death. Durable power of attorney, this is for finances, gives a designated person the authority to make legal financial decisions on behalf of the individual, whether it's Alzheimer's or any illness. And then the living trust gives a designated person, which is the trustee, the authority to hold and distribute property and funds for the person with either Alzheimer's or illness. Excuse me. Number two, where do they keep their financial records? If they do have, their banks, the name of the bank that they do business with. Do they have a safe deposit box? Is it located in this bank, or are they using another bank for it? Is it under the mattress? We know a lot of older adults like to keep important documents under the mattress. So, it's good to find out where these documents are and how to access them. Are there keys? Do they have a PIN code that they need to access these documents? So it's always good to know where they keep those important financial records. Where are they banking? Who is the name of the institutional bank that they're using, their financial bank institution? Who is their mortgage company, if there's a mortgage to be paid? Do they have an investment company, or do they work with a broker that the family member may not be aware of? It's good to know all this information just in case you do need to again make a payment, send a check to the mortgage company. You want to make sure who that is, what's the amount that it needs to be, and any investment companies, just in case they're receiving financial monetaries from them. And also, what are their monthly expenses? Mortgage, rent. Is there a car payment? What is their credit card debt, if they have any? Utility bills and other expenses, household expenses. IRS, do they owe any money to the IRS? You need to make, again, if something were to happen and you are going to be taking over their finances, you need to know where the payments are going to be made to. And then how do they pay their bills currently? Are they being taken out automatically out of their bank accounts every month? Are they sending checks? Are they making online payments? Or are they buying money orders? Whatever the case may be, how are those payments being made? Their annual income, how much is their annual income and where does it come from? Do they have a monthly pension check coming in, Social Security, SSI, do they have dividends from investments coming in? You have to know what money is coming in and who is, from where. Where is that income coming in from? And what benefits do they receive? Do they have Medicare? Do they have Medi-Cal, Medicaid, Social Security check coming in every month? And again, if they do have Social Security, how much are they receiving on a monthly basis? Also, they might be able to, if your parents do become incapacitated, their eligibility might change. Their Medi-Cal or Medicare status may change, and more assistance can be granted. So it's always good to find out what benefits they're receiving and how that's going to change throughout their their illness if something does change health-wise. And then you would have to need also permission again to their agent to get either manage their benefits on their behalf. Health insurance, what kind of health insurance do they have in addition, if they do, in addition to Medicare? Do they have a health insurance provider by an employer if they're still working? If they're retired, are health benefits included as part of a pension? Do they get health care through, the VA if they're veterans? If they do have Medicare, sorry, how do they get their coverage? Do they have original Medicare or a Medicare Advantage plan? We know all that, it's very confusing to deal with. So you need to find that and, get in touch with the appropriate person and see what those coverages, what they cover, those plans. Do they pay for a Medigap plan or a Part D plan? That would have to be who's going to be making the payments, or if that needs to change, for whatever reason, because of the change of in circumstances. Also, do they have any long-term care insurance? Is it a regular health insurance? Some of those don't cover senior living facilities. Or did they purchase long-term care insurance policy to cover, the cost of long-term care if you're finding that you need to place them, and they can't live at home? Do they have a policy and can no longer live on their own? And, will they be able to afford housing? So all these questions, who is the agent of the insurance, or who is the company that they hold the insurance with? Get in touch with them if that is the case. And, these are just some average cost of senior living. Some long-term care insurance will cover some of it. So, assisted living, memory care, about $4,000 monthly. It's an additional 20 to 30% for memory care units that deal with mostly Alzheimer and dementia individuals. Some nursing homes, for a shared room, it's $7,000, almost $7,500 on a monthly basis. If it's a private room, is $8,000. So you have to take into consideration if the individual of your loved one needs to be placed into a home. And retirement facilities, those are one-time entrance fee, anywhere from $80,000 to $750,000. So you gotta make sure that your loved one's financial status, and then that way you'll know what you need to do in case you do need to place them. And then last thing is, accountant, financial planner, or an attorney. Do they have any of this persons that they go and seek assistance from? Who is it and how do they contact them? Have they done any estate planning if they own properties? And do you know where this information is kept? Does your attorney have it, or is it at this safe deposit box at the bank? Just knowing all this information will make it a lot easier for you, if you do ever take over your parents or any family member that you might be caring for in the future. Some other planning advice, start the discussion early. I know sometimes we don't want to pry into their affairs, but it's always good to know. Just start the discussion. You don't need to wait until the last minute, until, something happens, a tragedy happens, because that's what most people tend to do. We wait until the last minute when we need this information as opposed to starting early. And always review plans over time. Things change. The health of the individual might change, or divorce might happen, or life change and things change throughout your life. So it's always good to review your plans over time and make any necessary changes. If you already had a power of attorney and your agent for some reason, let's say they are no longer with us, they passed, so you would need to assign somebody else as your agent, or they moved out of state, or for whatever reason they don't want to be the agent anymore. So you would need to make those appropriate changes. This will reduce anxiety, and for those last stages, any funeral and burial arrangements will be a lot easier to deal with. Some resources where you can go and seek help, elder law attorneys can help you set up a power of attorney. Your local area agency on aging, some state legal aid offices can also assist you on setting up these services, or getting you in touch with someone that might assist you. State bar associations as well, they have attorneys, they can make a referral. And your local nonprofit agencies that might have other resources for low-income families and seniors to help you find a individual to help you set up, power of attorney, whether it's finances, health, or live-in will, whatever documents you might need, or just somebody to guide you in the right direction to get all this in place for your loved ones. These are my references. And that is all. Thank you. Now we'll open up to any questions or discussions you may have.
Wow, not a fun topic, but boy,
no,
what an important.
It's yes.
So important. That was a great presentation. You really made it clear why we need these things in place, and not just putting them in place, but then managing them. Continuing to have conversations, continuing to update information, and stay involved. Yeah. Wow, I was really shocked. I did not know that power of attorney isn't recognized by, the VA, Social Security Administration, and Medicare. That's huge.
And that's a lot of the companies that most seniors deal with. And
exactly.
Yeah, it was interesting to find out that too. So I was like, oh. But yeah, because you would think power of attorney, you can do anything and everything with it.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I was under. That's kind of what I was taught, is it's kind of like the best, the most powerful tool. But I guess even if it's the best and most powerful, right behind the pulse, it still doesn't do a lot. I guess everything is limited. I guess that's the lesson, is everything is limited.
Right. And I think it might be because they're more governmental agencies. So they're a little more cautious, with fraud or giving out information to a third party.
Yeah.
Which is good. But then,
Yeah. It's good that they want to protect you. That you can't argue with that, right?
Yeah. But then again, if you have it set in place before something happens, it shouldn't be an issue. It's when something does happen and then you need to contact them, then that's when it's like, oh, you have to go through all these steps just to get information.
Yeah, this stuff is difficult and tedious to deal with now, but imagine during a crisis, when the banks are closed and the bank is all the way across town and, oh, wait, the manager is over here, and you have to go, yeah. Do it now while you have the time.
And it might take weeks for them to process it, have to go to this department and that department. So, it's always better to just do it ahead of time and not wait until it's an emergency.
Yeah, that's kind of true for so many things, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, if Valerie, do you have any input on that? Any of this?
I didn't have any input, but yeah, I think Olga made a great point that it's better to do it in advance because if something does happen, I think we've all heard other people have terrible experiences during a funeral or during a family member who's in the hospital and they're trying to get all this stuff sorted. It's best to do it in advance.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.